you considered the messages your outfits send? What do you think your clothes say about you? See, style is about the clothes, but it's not really about the clothes. Every day you make choices about what you're going to wear, but what are you communicating? Welcome to Above and Beyond Style. I'm your host, Maria DiLorenzo, and in 2019, I founded MFD Style, where I provide a unique, intuitive approach to personal styling for those ready to embrace a more meaningful look. With this podcast, I'll uncover key elements of where spirituality, psychology, and style intersect, revealing how you can make intentional wardrobe choices that reflect who you really are. So let me ask you, are you ready to transform into your authentic self? Then it's time. Come with me on this journey, and together we'll take your style above and beyond style. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Above and Beyond Style. I am really excited to be back with you. I had to take a week off last week because I was doing all sorts of traveling and different activities, but I am back with you and really happy to check back in. I wanted to begin this week's episode with a little check-in around my style resolution, which, if you recall, at the beginning of this season, I talked about a style resolution or a word that would help sort of guide or give you some focus for the year, ultimately, but really specifically to help really harness that focus on your authentic style and something that will give you inspiration and maybe purpose when you are putting together outfits or sort of standing at your closet in the morning trying to figure out, like, how do I want to feel in my clothes and what really feels like an authentic extension of me. So I talked about my style resolution for this year was around the word vibrancy. And it really has translated into basically all aspects of my life. And it's interesting because I am coming to you like literally a week before I am about to move out of my condo that I sold earlier this year and go into this new stage of my life where I'm going to be exploring some new and different places to live for a more vibrant lifestyle. And for me, that has come, from many years of discernment and really coming to clarity about how I want my life to feel and the ways I want to interact with people in my community, how I want my business to evolve. Like all of these things sort of started to center around this concept of vibrancy. And of course, it impacts then my style too, and the choices that I'm making around my style and how I'm showing up in the world to help reflect some of this really important change that is happening in my life. And I've talked a little bit about this on Instagram if you follow me there, but I am going to be talking throughout the course of this maybe next 6 to 8 months. I really don't know how long it's going to take me to identify a new home for myself and feel like it'll be the right decision to be kind of where I'm at and where I will feel the most just comfortable and really at ease in my surroundings. But it's also an opportunity for me over these next 6 to 8 months to really hone my ability to be at home with myself and find a sense of security and safety within myself as a lot of my external environment is going to be changing. All rightfully so, all for the purpose that I intend, and that I'm willingly go into this phase of unpredictability, uncertainty, and so my external environment is going to be pretty different, and it's going to look different and feel different. And so then I've been thinking about how my style is going to perhaps mirror some of these larger changes that are happening in my life. And when I really thought about this concept of vibrancy and really wanting, to grow and sort of expand my life in some way, I want to come back to that concept of like home and security and safety within myself, which if you're new to my podcast or you're new to my kind of way of thinking, style really is an extension of who you are and what you're about. And it communicates a language about who we are and what we're about. And it's not necessarily always for how others interpret us. It's really about us showing up for ourselves in the most authentic way. And I keep thinking about, because everything in my life is changing. It feels like I'm literally blowing up my life. Again, all for good reason and all with good intent and purpose. But I'm going to really need to become really proficient at sitting with myself, being at home with myself when my external environment is going to be really different. And so when I'm thinking about my style in that space, I feel like I'm really going to be leaning into some of these aspects of my style that really do speak authentically of me. And it may not be the thing that expands and is experimental and maybe innovative in this season of my life, because so much in my external world is going to be changing. It might feel really good to lean into the comfort and the security of my own style descriptors that I've come to know and practice really well over the last several years. And I'm offering this because I think sometimes when we think about our authentic style, it sometimes can be misshapen or maybe too heavily influenced by external voices or external circumstances or, the things again that are outside of us, rather than really sitting with like, what is this about for me? And how do I want my style to really help represent who I am and what I'm about at any phase of my life? And I think for any of us that are going through change, which I feel like, I don't know, there was something in the energy of this year that feels like a lot of people are on the tipping point of change. Some small ways, some big ways. But I think sometimes when we're in that season of change and growth, perhaps not coincidental that it's on the brink of spring and we've just had that spring equinox and it's been this time of renewal and rebirth, that there is something about utilizing and using our wardrobe as a tool for support, which I've talked about in the first season of this podcast, to really help ground and center us. So my vibrancy check-in around my style actually feels like it's coming a little full circle. And I don't mean that like in the fullest sense of like where this whole year will take me, but it's coming full circle back to this sense of like lean into what I know and what I want and how I want to express myself through my style right now, because that will help keep me grounded and centered when the rest of my life is really in flux. And that feels vibrant for me to come back to that realization, because I know it'll serve me. I know it will provide a sense of just like at homeness that I might be needing when my physical home is in transition. Does that make sense? I think it's just interesting how that's kind of come to me over the last couple weeks when I'm thinking about this vibrancy concept. Anyway, how are you doing with your style resolution? Did you make a style resolution this year? Are you still kind of playing with a word or a concept or a way that you want to express your style? Just know you can start and stop at any juncture. It doesn't have to be at the beginning of a calendar year or on any significant day. There's always the opportunity to welcome in and see where our style can help shape and influence and support our life. And that to me is really something that's important as I've made this connection between style and psychology and spirituality. So anyway, that's my little check-in on vibrancy. I hope you're doing well with your style resolution, and I'll continue to keep letting you know how this is showing up for me. So this week, remember this season, we are talking about maybe the pitfalls or the things that perhaps get us off track from our authentic style. And sometimes I think of them as ways that are like interrupting or maybe even distracting us from our authentic style, and things that can oftentimes just not put us in the direction of getting dressed in the morning in a way that feels really good and really purposeful for our day. So this week's topic has to do with, and it's kind of reflective off of it's building off of some of the previous episodes of this season. But I've been thinking about, this has come up a couple different times in other ways. I'm like, gosh, this also speaks to clothes. But this week's topic is about the reserved only section of your wardrobe. So what does that mean? The reserved only section feels like those special things that we save and don't wear. So let's talk about it before we talk about clothes. Let's talk about it in the other things in our life that I see this kind of showing up and how I do think this actually translates to our clothes sometimes. So I think about when a couple gets married and they register for fine china. And I don't know if this is even commonplace anymore. I'm in my mid-40s. A lot of my friends got married almost 20 years ago. So maybe this has evolved since then. But when people register for their weddings, you often see them registering for this lovely fine china. And the fine china is supposed to be for like special occasions or things that, if you're hosting a holiday meal or a brunch or something, I just envision like these really luxurious fine tablescapes using this fine china. And I always wonder when people get this fine china, like how often are they using it? Like, does it come out just once or twice a year? Or is it something that they put into regular rotation, like once a month? Or, I don't know. I'm curious about this because fine china seems to be one of those things that we like reserve and hold and only use for special occasions. And the same thing happens, I find, with like candles sometimes. I don't know if this is a funny analogy or metaphor for it, but it's like the candle is so beautiful, or maybe it's like a really finely sculpted candle. So it's like maybe in a really beautiful shape, or it's a scent that is, I don't know, really fine, or it was expensive or something. And people don't want to burn it. They just like maybe leave it up in their house, or they're afraid to use it, or just don't want to like waste it, quote unquote. And I find that interesting too about like we have these things that we don't use, but we're reserving for, I don't know, a special occasion or something that we think is worthy, or there's a time that'll be perfect for us to use this candle. And I don't know if this is resonating for any of you about the things that we reserve, we hold out on using, because there's something in our mind that says, oh, it can only be used for this special occasion or this special reason. And so we sort of hold out and we reserve ourselves from actually utilizing the thing. And I don't know about you, but maybe in the last several years since the pandemic, I think there's been a lot of rising consciousness around like, don't wait. Don't hold out for another time, because what if there isn't another time? Or what if you don't get that opportunity to use the thing and enjoy the things that we own and have? So there's kind of this deeper level of like enjoying what we have and being able to utilize it and giving it life and allowing us, giving ourselves even the permission to use these things and not hold out or reserve them for a special occasion. And I see this in clothing too, right? It's an interesting way that I've seen people, when I'm maybe again going through closets or working with clients through their wardrobe and, really looking at the specific items, item by item, I hear sometimes this kind of belief or this philosophy around, oh, I only wear that on special occasions, or I only use this for a specific event, and it does harken back to an episode earlier this season around kind of the what if scenario and, holding on to things for a later time. And so we're not necessarily utilizing the thing that is needed right now. So it does it's in this sort of the same room as that episode. But this in particular feels like these are items that, maybe even still have tags on them. That just sort of sit in this section of being reserved for something special. And it does help me to understand sometimes when I talk with my clients around this about, there is something in our own belief systems around like wanting to kind of protect and hold sacred certain things for these special momentous occasions in our lives, or maybe they're milestones, or we want to mark time with that. And so, some of these clothing items often get associated with those types of events or circumstances, which there's nothing inherently wrong with that. But I'll give you an example. I was working with a client. This was probably several years ago, and we were going through her closet, and she had a dress that she wore to her engagement party. Now, she was well into her marriage, 30, 40 years into her marriage. So this dress had been sitting in her closet for a really long time. And bless her, she could still fit in it, which is not often the case when 30 or 40 years of body changes happen, but she could still fit in this dress. And I said to her, well, like, when was the last time you wore this? And she said, oh, I mean, probably not since that night. And I said, is there a reason why you haven't like reached for it again? Or do you feel like somehow you're tainting the sacredness of this dress that was obviously a part of a special night and a special event in your life? Like, why wouldn't you go back to it again? And think about like every time you put it on, like, oh my gosh, this is the dress I wore to my engagement party, right? It has a great story. So why wouldn't you kind of tap back into that? And her response was she just wanted to reserve it and just hold it. And there was something in it that I could really respect about that sort of, again, the sacredness of sort of reserving and holding. But I also wanted to challenge her about, those special occasions. We don't have to wait for the special occasion to be able to wear the things that we own. And I think sometimes when we save or protect the special garment, or maybe we spent a lot of money on it, or whatever the like logic or rationale is about why we have these like reserved only items in our wardrobe, I think it's just sort of going back to that moment of like, what are we waiting for? And I hope that we all get the opportunities to live our lives in our clothing in a way that feels really vibrant and exciting for us. So I'm trying to encourage us not to hold back and not to hold out with some of these items that are in our wardrobe that we might not, have access to every day, or that we might not think are special enough for the occasion, for the everyday. It's like, go ahead, use the fine china, like host your friends for dinner and use the fine china, or have your Saturday or Sunday morning breakfast with your family on the fine china. Like, it doesn't have to be this special thing, or burn the candle, or use the supplies. I saw a meme, I think on Instagram, and I want to read to you the text of it because it spoke so specifically to this concept that I was like, oh, that speaks to my soul and what I want to talk about with you guys on this week's episode. So here's what it said. The best New Year's resolution I ever made was to start devouring all of my nicest things and save no small pleasure for an unspecified future. Now I burn all the good candles. I wear the expensive clothes at home. I scribble in all the pretty notebooks. See, you can't pin joy like a moth. Ooh, isn't that good? That's what I'm talking about here, you guys, with that reserved only section of your wardrobe. Like, don't save anything for a special occasion. Being alive is a special occasion. And we deserve to live our lives in the clothes that we have in a way that's intentional and purposeful. So move some of those reserved only things into your rotation. That's going to be my challenge for you this week. If you have something in your wardrobe that for whatever reason was sort of earmarked for this reserved only section, I want to challenge you to pull it out and try to wear it this week, or try to incorporate it into something that you can wear relatively soon, because there is too much special occasion, lifestyle, momentum, energy in our everyday that I think sometimes we maybe miss an opportunity to really relish in that, and instead just hold out, right? We're holding out for this reason. almost like the reserved section of a restaurant, like, ooh, I can't go over there, right? Like some sections of our wardrobes, for whatever reason, are like those reserved sections of the restaurant. And I really want us to kind of break that barrier and break that boundary of what that could do and how that really could infuse some new life into your wardrobe. And I think that's one of the positive, quote unquote, consequences of like taking those items out of the reserved only section and really, building them into your wardrobe rotation, that there gets to be kind of this infusion of new energy or new maybe stories or memories that you can incorporate in your wardrobe. So I think it's important for us to not save the clothes or, just if they're too new or too special or too nice to wear every day, like radically try to change that belief that like we can live our clothes in the nice thing, live our day in the nice thing and wear our clothes even if they feel like they're too special for whatever occasion. Like just go for it. Use this as permission to really help reconnect you to the energy and the joy of getting dressed again. And give yourself that permission to just use the nice things, right? So use the reserved only section, you guys. This is something that I hope we can all tap into for this next week. So thanks for joining in. I hope everybody is doing really well, and I look forward to connecting with you again the next time. Thanks so much for listening today. If you enjoyed what you've heard, I would appreciate you taking the time to leave a review on the podcasting platform you're using and share this episode with others who you think might really enjoy these conversations about personal style. For more information all about MFD Style services, you can find me on the web at mfdstyle.com, on Instagram at mfd_style, where I post almost 5 days a week, or send me an email at maria@mfdstyle.com. I also have a weekly email I send to subscribers, so I will include the link to that sign up in the show notes. So until next time, friends, remember to love yourself and then love yourself some more.